Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. In today's episode, we're going to be studying a piece by the career 3D artist known as Ryan Hawthorne, and in this episode, we're going to be looking at the pristine and the crystalline. We're also going to explore the revival of the classics in the Simpler Time series. Let's jump right into it. So at first sight, one of the first things I asked myself is who exactly we're met with here. Of course, like I said, this is part of the Simpler Time series. We'll go a bit deeper in that here in a second, but notice how the placement of our subject is in center right. This, of course, makes it kind of the anchor of this composition. And we see this accented and elevated, especially in the foreground there, right? It is closest to us, so due to that nature, it's going to be the most important element within this composition. You may also notice, of course, colors within this composition really consist of gray, blue, black, and we have this slight hint of this reddish orange here. This rare flare, of course, we see this primarily here and straight to our subject's head. That, of course, elevates and frames our figure as well. And you may also notice a sense of texture, right? We see this primarily on our subject's kind of shiny and even rough form here, but we also see the smooth as well as the rough in the background, all of which immerse us so well within this work and introduce a bit of visual energy as well. I think that's pretty important here. I want to ask you guys, how do y'all feel when you view this piece? So the work before us is part of Ryan Hawthorne's Simpler Time series, and this is where he revives classic statues in kind of the contemporary age with these low poly renders. I have some additional pieces that I've studied from this series. I'm going to bring those in real quick and see what we compare to the original work before us. Alright, so I brought in two additional works from Ryan Hawthorne's Simpler Time series, both of which I have studied in the past. On the right we have Plexus, and on the left we have On Spec. Of course, in all three instances you see the low poly renderings of what we refer to as classical statues. These really remind of the Roman or the Greek, of course, all of which are incredibly important in art history. In all three instances we have this sense of the sci-fi, right? Especially the work on the left feels like a simulation of sorts, and the work on the right you see that as well. And of course, the work on the middle, it's a lot more, say, disciplined in the use of color, but regardless, they are extremely important and relevant to the kind of sense of minimalism in low poly here as well. You'll see the placement in space is incredibly important, of course. Implied lines are created, and the subject is elevated in Plexus, just as the work here. You see, of course, that framing and the two triangles, all of which elevate the form and presence of our lone subject, especially the work before us here, right? We have, say, those triangles, just like the work on the left. We also have, say, a circular disc framing our lone subject, and all of these converge to elevate our subject's form. So I just want to bring those in real quick. And of course, the low poly classical renders are absolutely stunning. I think this is a brilliant series and incredibly important, especially for the contemporary age. Alright, so I searched quite a bit, but I couldn't find a statue that I think is exactly the one which stands before us today. I was looking at, the Venus de Milo, I was looking at Aphrodite, I was looking at so many different classic statues, but sadly, I could not find one that I think I could present with absolute certainty. And although I searched endlessly and I said I didn't want to make a judgment on what statue this is, I think I should show you guys what I was considering. So the work on the right, for example, we have Venus de Milo. I was looking at that, I was considering it, but when I look at the way they look over the left shoulder there, of course, the arm on the left, I don't think that is quite accurate. It was close, but I don't think that is the one. When I look at the work on the left, for example, this is Aphrodite Knossos. I don't think this one either. The arm isn't extended. It is much closer to the side. And like I said, the way which they look over the left shoulder doesn't really follow the work on the left or the work on the right. I think the work on the right is much closer. Perhaps it could be the one before us, but I wasn't quite confident with that. But regardless, I just want to show you guys, what I was considering, perhaps what this statue may be. At the end of the day, if y'all know which statue this is, or if you have a really good guess, drop a comment below. I'd really like to know. I want to be most accurate, but like I said, I wasn't exactly certain which statue this is. So if y'all think you know what it is, drop a comment below. I'd really love to check it out. But regardless, we see the statue before us here. Statues are some of the most important elements of, say, classical Greece and Roman culture. Of course, for example, when I visit an art museum and I look at one of those statues, it feels like a person is directly in front of me, right? That sense of personality, that sense of, say, realism that's provided by these statues, it just immerses you so well within that. Of course, they are incredibly detailed, but within the work before us, we have what we call a low poly render. I briefly mentioned that earlier, but you see that sense of the minimalism. But despite this texture is also quite wild as well. But regardless, of course, statues are incredibly important in the work before us here. And I also briefly mentioned, but this sense of order here is incredibly important, especially when you look at, say, these translucent or hovering discs here. We have 1, 2, and 3 here. That, of course, draws implied lines to elevate and frame our subject's form. I think that's incredibly important here. That elevates the presence of our subject and makes us draw our eye time and time again back to their form. There also is a sense of the surreal or zero gravity within this composition. I say that primarily with these discs, right? They appear to be hovering, and it's hard to say exactly who or what they are, but regardless, there is a sense of the magical or mystical when viewing this composition. Another thing that comes to mind here is the crystalline or the pristine, that sense of purity here. We see this, like I said, primarily on those discs, but regardless, it conveys a sense of luxury and status within this composition. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I'd love to see it here. And regardless of who this subject is, like I said, I couldn't pin down with any set certainty. We are blessed to witness such a sight. Let us toast the ancients who really created a base foundation to the culture which stands to this very day. And the work before us is incredibly realistic, right? Although it is minimalist and low poly, there is an incredible sense of texture, incredible sense of, say, tactile sensation there as well. This is due to the digital render, right? The work before us was created using the Cinema 4D program, a highly professional program. I know everyone from Hawthorne to Beeple, Future Self, Will to Lawn, so many artists use Cinema 4D, and although it's not open source like Blender, there is a reason why professionals use this program, so I think that's pretty important to mention here. If y'all create your works in Blender, you want to try a different program, check out Cinema 4D. Of course, if you don't like it, you can always switch back, but there is a reason why people use Cinema 4D. But yeah, that's all I have for today. I really hope y'all enjoyed. Like I said, the work before us is pristine, it's crystalline, it's luxurious, it displays a sense of status, and I absolutely love to study it. I really hope y'all enjoyed today. We talked about so many different things, from the sense of texture here, the elevation of space, and the use of placement within the composition. We talked about Ryan Hawthorne's Simpler Time series. We talked a little bit about the classic sculptures of Greek and Roman culture. So many different things we hit on today. Like I said, I really hope y'all enjoyed. If y'all enjoyed today's episode, make sure to check out the original artist Ryan Hawthorne, doing some amazing stuff in the world of 3D art. Truly a career artist at this point. But yeah, like I said, that's all I have for today. If y'all enjoyed, go check out the original artist Ryan Hawthorne. My name's Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.